Hey everybody, welcome to Our Lady of Mount Carmel's kitchen. This is, I think, our 16th cooking show. And we always have fun with it. It's a great time to get us all together and learn some new things and have some fun together. So welcome to our kitchen. And as always, it's a BYOB event. Bring your own beverage, whatever you have, pour yourself something. I'm doing my usual Jack Daniel's Manhattan. So it's usually pretty good, and I should enjoy this as well. And whatever you're pouring for yourself, wine or beer or maybe a soft drink or some water, a Pellegrino, va bene, whatever you think. Now, as you know, if you've been watching our teaser videos, tonight is a surprise night. I promised you that you would see something tonight you've never seen on a cooking show before. Now, you may think, oh, Father, I've watched all these cooking shows all the time, and I see lots of things, but you have not seen this before. So we're very excited, and we're going to reveal the surprise now. But first, I got to get my apron, and, well, gee, where's my green stripe apron? It's usually right here. I'm not sure where did it go. I'm not exactly sure where it went. Perhaps somebody stole it from me. Did somebody steal my apron from me?
Well, hello everyone. I'm not stealing, I'm just borrowing the apron for this evening. By popular demand, I'm here this evening with all of you to do a few of my own little recipes to help in this whole process of, just having a fun evening on a Sunday and sharing some of our little wisdom in the kitchen. So it's a great joy to be able to do just a couple of little dishes for you this evening. And I promise you that they're going to be very, very easy. How easy, you might say? Well, let's start with the appetizer, okay? It's a little Italian antipasto bite. And that really came from an event that we had here in the parish, a mission trip event that we have every single year. It is our appetizer night. Now, when Father Zinno first said, oh, Father Steve, you're going to be doing one of these dishes, I said to myself, oh, so how many do I have to make? Like 8 appetizers for the judges? And he said, oh, no. You have to make 225 of them. And I think my jaw hit the floor at that point. But after I collected myself, I said, well, how hard could that really be? I'd have to think of something that would be very, very easy to assemble very quickly. You can't really do it ahead of time. It has to be done that day. So I wanted to find something that would be easy, but would be a little different, a little fun, and hopefully get me to some place on that 6 places in that appetizer contest. So I was thinking about Italian different things. And I tried to think to myself, well, what's the absolute easiest appetizer that you can possibly do? Well, it's an antipasto board. It's a cheese board. Anyone can go out to the market and get a couple of different cheeses, a couple of different salamis, a few mushrooms, olives, all kinds of different things. You put together a little board, and all of a sudden, everybody is happy. So I said to myself, well, how can I do that, but put just a little twist on it? So I started looking for some different recipes, and I think I found something rather interesting. So it begins first here with our different slices of salami. Now here, I just found this little different variety pack at Stop and Shop. There are 3 different kinds here. One is more mild, one is a little sweet, and then the third here is nice and spicy. And you want to have a little bit of variety like that with all your guests because not everybody is always the same. Even also, in addition to this, you can get all kinds of other salamis, things that are rimmed with a little bit of black pepper all on the edges. If you want something that's a little spicy but not too hot, there are all kinds of different salamis that you can get. But this is our baseline. This is going to form a mold with which we can put all kinds of other different Italian goodies inside. So I have here a little mini muffin tray. You could either use a very small one or you can use a much bigger one. This one, I wanted to do a very small little bite that you could put everything into one and it'll be ready to go. Now you might be wondering, well, Father, what are these little aluminum foil balls doing here? You can put those together just as a way of keeping the salami anchored in the muffin tray to keep it holding that form, that shape. and it'll be able to hold all of your various ingredients. So I'm going to show you how this works. It'll be very, very simple. So you take your slice of salami here. This is the more mild one. You should choose one of these little muffin tins and just kind of push it in so that it forms a little bit of a form, a little cup there. Then you take one of your little aluminum foil spheres, be about an inch wide or so, and you put it right into the tray. And that just keeps it all anchored. It keeps it all nice in place so that throughout the baking process, this salami doesn't, lose its shape more or less. So we'll do just a couple more here. Why not? We'll finish off this last little tray here. But we just put those in just like so.
Father, do you think prosciutto would work with this?
It certainly could. You would just need probably just a bigger muffin tray if you wanted to. So it would just depend on the size, because the slices of prosciutto would usually be a little bit bigger, I think. But throughout this baking process, you'd be surprised at how much it holds this form. You would think, oh, a salami, like that's not really a good thing to form a shape that you would hold all of the different ingredients in. But you'll be very surprised once you bake it. It really does hold its form very, very well. So we have one last slice here. We'll put that in. And we'll get our little aluminum foil sphere here.
Now, I think we bought this cupcake tin on Amazon, didn't we? Because they're very small. They're great for appetizers, aren't they, Father?
Everything about this is all very, very easy. So this is the kind of tray that you would have. Now, when we were doing this rapid fire for the appetizer contest, we just made tray after tray after tray. But for your guests, all you have to do is just put together like 8 or 10 or something like that, and it'll be just fine. And we have here an oven preheated for 350 degrees. Now this is where your patience really shines, because you'll put this into the oven and you can set a timer maybe for 12 minutes or so, just so that you don't forget about your little salami bites in there. However, it really comes down to the feel of it. You have to just go in there, you take a look at it. Once you see a little bit of browning on the edges, you go in, you give it a little tap, and if it feels as though it's really started to solidify, then you know that your mold is all ready to go. Now, very typically in these cooking shows, we already have a set of 8 already ready to go here. And as you can see, all of these little shapes are holding their form very, very well. And they're primed to receive all kinds of little Italian ingredients. So we're going to move over just a little bit here. Move that off to the side here. And we have all kinds of different little goodies here. We have some different kinds of olives. We have black olives. We have green olives. We have some pepperoncini, some red peppers here. We have some of the other pepperoncini, some marinated mushrooms, some marinated artichoke hearts. And then this particular cheese is just a provolone, but you can use really any kind of cheese that you want. If you wanted to do the Parmigiano Reggiano, you can do all kinds of different cheeses. It really comes down to what you enjoy. Some people really just don't like black olives. They don't put any black olives in anything. So you might want to switch it off and you do something different. But this is very simple. You just take a couple of each little ingredient and you begin to build up in layers all of your little bites. So you can put just a couple of the olives in.
Now, of course, Father, your hands are your best tools for kitchen, and Father washed them impeccably clean. So. But they really are your best tools for cooking.
This afternoon, I'm between sanitizing my hands at Mass and preparing for this little cooking show. I must have washed my hands at least 40 times today. So you go through and you want to just build up these different little appetizer bites in all kinds of different ways. So if your guests are big on olives, well, then you can put some olives in. If they prefer more spicy things, the little pepperoncini, well, you can do that as well. So it really just depends on what you like. These things, as with most different Italian bites, or really most recipes in general, these are all just like different little concepts that you can do. And you swap it out for really whatever you like. If it's the artichoke hearts you like, fine. If you don't like artichokes, well, don't put them in. The choice is up to you.
So adesso, molto italiano stasera. Right now, this is a very Italian dish, but you can make it French, you can make it Indonesian, you can make it
Absolutely.
Asian. Yeah.
So this is a very fun, little, easy appetizer. And I promise, if I can make over 200 of them. I promise that you can make 20 for all of your guests.
Father's absolutely correct.
So we have a few little things in here, but honestly, it's still missing a little something. It's missing a little bit of color. So I have here over on the side, I have some basil. And a very easy way to chop up this basil is to nest all these little leaves kind of together. So you begin with the biggest, you put the smaller ones in there, and then you just take them all. They were washed before this very thoroughly, but you just kind of roll them up just like so. You take your knife, and then all of a sudden, you can cut little ribbons out of this basil.
In French cuisine, they call it chiffonade.
Chiffonade.
To cut it just like that, chiffonade.
These little tiny little ribbons, perfect for our little bites. And it already smells like summer in here.
Can't wait.
When I was bringing back the basil from the store, it was really incredible. The entire car begins to smell like basil, like summer. It's extraordinary. But you just put a little bit of basil if you like a lot of basil. If you don't like a lot of basil, just a little. You don't have to put any. It's really your choice. But
Now, Father, in the end, you don't have to cook it anymore. It's just served just like this.
just like that.
Wow.
And you probably wouldn't want to cook it more because, you want to preserve that whole sense of an Italian antipasto board. And the cheese on that board is usually just served room temperature, the olives, everything else, the mushrooms. It's all just little, pickings.
And you served this for our appetizer night for the mission trip.
I did.
I remember it was a big hit.
225 of them. So.
But it looks so easy to make. Now if you don't mind, Father, I'm gonna steal one right here.
Please do.
And try it.
Absolutely. I can hear a little bit of the crunch, so the salami did its job holding that form.
Father, it's so good. You know what? You're cooking for the rest of the year here. I'm not doing dinner anymore. You're cooking.
See, this is why you can only do just so good a job. But you might have noticed we still have a lot of different ingredients like that left. That's okay. All of these things essentially are marinated in different things, so they're going to hold up over time. So you make a batch for your guests this evening, you save it for another evening. We don't want to waste any of it, but it's all good.
You could actually mix all those things together and put them in a salad.
Sure thing.
Like a little antipasto salad.
Exactly.
Insalata antipasti.
So you continue to switch things up. But that's a super, very, very easy start to your evening. Next, we're moving over to our very important Italian staple, which is a pasta course.
Now, just before you begin, I
Yes.
need a little sip of my drink
Oh,
here, which
yes.
has been sitting, waiting patiently for me.
Yes.
But now you can go further. And by the way, your mom's watching this, and she's decided you're cooking for the rest of your life at her house, too.
I'm gonna be very, very busy. Very busy. So, what we're doing for our pasta this evening is really going to be our main course. The whole idea of this cooking lesson is something that you can do when you come home from work. It's been a long day. You might not necessarily have as much time to put a couple of courses together, but you still want something that's substantial, that's great. So, what is your go-to thing? It would be a nice pasta course. And instead of just doing a little bit to begin the evening, you would have a much bigger pasta. And this also includes a protein. It has your vegetables in it. It has all kinds of different things. So this really covers all of your bases as well. So, what we're having this evening is an Oriquetti Pasta, which means little ear. It's a kind of pasta which very perfectly holds the sauce of whatever you are making. So, you have here, the very first step is this Oriquetti pasta I'm making this evening with some Italian sausage, which I've ground up. But again, this is just a concept. So I've made this in all kinds of other different ways. I've used the Oriquetti pasta, but I've also used it with kind of a spiced lamb that you would use in a shepherd's pie, and I put peas with it. So it's a different kind of dish. This, I'm using the Italian sausage, and I'm using some of the baby spinach as my green. Now, I was not able to find broccoli rabe in the store, but If you are able to find it, that's a perfect alternative as well.
Father, if you use broccoli rabe, should you cook the broccoli rabe first?
Correct. So this particular cooking lesson is really based on the spinach, because that spinach is going to wilt down very quickly, as you'll see. The broccoli rabe, you would do that on the side. You would cook that up ahead of time with garlic, with olive oil, and everything else. So here, to begin, you want to brown all of your sausage. Now, what I did was I went to the store and I found sausage, not sausage links, but the Italian sausage that you find in the meat department with their casings. And it's very easy to go into that meat market and you find the particular kind that you like. This evening, I'm using the sweet Italian sausage. But if you like heat, well, then you can do a spicy sausage. Now, what I choose to do is I use the sweet sausage to begin with, but I add a little bit of the hot pepper in it. It allows me to control it a little bit better. Sometimes if you get the hot sausage in the store, it's a little bit of a gamble. Sometimes you might get something that's perfect. Sometimes you can't feel anything after you've had a bite of it. So this is really, I think, a nice middle ground. So I had begun this just before we began our cooking lessons. As you can see, everything in the pan, this sausage meat has been broken up and it is nice and browned. Now, you want to get that color on there, because if you don't have that color, you don't have the flavor. If you still find a lot of that sausage is kind of a grayish color, then you just don't have the flavor that you would have from this. And you want, at the bottom of the pan, you want a little bit of those browned bits at the bottom, because that's where all the flavor is. So we have that going. I'm going to put our pasta into our boiling hot water. But before we do, I have to add some salt to it. Now this is very important, especially with this dish, and I'll tell you why. Ordinarily, when you're making pasta, you would put a lot of salt in there. You want it to taste like the sea. However, there's a little bit of a problem with it with this particular dish, because we use some of the pasta water to begin to help the spinach to wilt down. So if we put too much salt in there during this process, your dish will become very salty very quickly. It's happened to me a couple of times that I've added a lot of the pasta water, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, this is too much. So you have to be very measured. You can always add more salt later, you just can't take it out of the dish when it's all said and done. So
Father Steve, I want to tell you that the comments I'm getting from people are saying they're so impressed. Like, I'm just never cooking in this kitchen again because you're in charge of cooking, and I'm just going to come down and eat dinner, and everything will be great. Here goes the salt now.
So we're adding some of the salt here. And really the only way to figure this out is by tasting it. So you want it to taste like the sea. So I'm going to get just a spoon here. I'm going to get a little of this water just to see. And I suspect I'll need to add a little more, but actually that's not bad.
Yeah.
It's actually, that'd probably be enough, actually. So I'm going to actually probably use this entire package of the Oriquetti, because this is going to be our only main meal this evening. So again, you don't want to skimp on it. If this is all you're doing, you can make the whole bag of pasta, and if there's a little left over, well, then you can save it. That's okay. We're going to pour that in. Okay.
And how many minutes does the Oriquetti cook for?
So the package says 11 minutes.
11 minutes.
So I'm going to set a timer, but again, the only way you really know about these things is by just testing it out. Mm-hmm. So you can set a timer, say for 11 minutes, just so that you don't forget about it, that you don't go into the other room and you say, uh-oh, what is that?
Now, should you put the cover back on the pasta dish to bring it to boil more quicker?
I think that might be a good idea. It's still a little bit boiling here, but you know what? We'll do just a little like that, just so that it doesn't boil over.
Now you have 10 minutes of talking time, Father.
I do.
So I hope you have lots of stories
Oh,
to
I have
tell
lots
us.
of stories to tell. So, really the whole idea behind this, why I was quite willing to take on this little cooking show, really goes back to the year, if you can believe it, 2014. So, 2014 found me at a parish in Woonsocket, St. Agatha's and Precious Blood in Woonsocket. I was very blessed there because there was a lot of priests, but in addition, there was also 2 religious sisters of the Franciscan Apostolic Order. Wonderful, wonderful sisters. And they were so kind. They lived in the rectory there with the priests. They had their own separate wing of the rectory. It was really a kind of step back in time to a day where really most rectories would have several priests. You might have a convent next door where there'd be a couple of religious sisters. And these 2 religious sisters, they were very good about assisting me in terms of cooking. So when I first arrived, I was even thinner, if you can believe it, than I am now. And they were so upset. You could not believe how upset these sisters were. And they said, Father, we're going to put some weight on you over this summer. They were very upset. So every morning, every evening, for lunch, dinner, everything else, they cooked for me, all 3 meals a day. They were the most wonderful sisters that you can imagine. But here's the only problem. That's not the norm in really any rectory, in any parish in the Diocese of Providence. So what happens now is that most often is the case the priest has to more or less fend for himself. The priest needs to know how to do some cooking to be able to feed him, perhaps an assistant, anything else. So, this was the kind of idea behind it. And I said to myself, as I was there at that summer assignment, this is wonderful, but this isn't always going to be the situation.
So, Father, as you remember when you were ordained 4 years ago, God, it seems like yesterday.
Yes.
And I went to the ordination. It was a wonderful day. And then I came out of the church, and the bishop came up to me, and what was the only direction he gave to me,
So he
Father?
he came up and said, you are receiving Father Stephen Batty. He's going to be a wonderful assistant. However, he's too thin. You have to put some weight on Father Batty. We need our priests for a long, long time.
And that was my directive. It had nothing to do with faith or liturgy or anything else. He said, we are fatten that guy up. And so I've been trying for 4 years. And
we've been
if
working.
you look back at pictures from 4 years ago, you'll see I've been successful to what the bishop told me to do.
That's right. That's right. So now back to our pasta dish here. Again, I'm just keeping all the sausage here warm. Now in a couple seconds here, I'm going to add some of the spinach and begin that process of wilting it down. But we're really waiting for this pasta to get a little further along here. The pasta is boiling away. It's doing its thing. We're going to use some of that pasta water that has now taken all the salt, and it has some of that starch. It's going to thicken this whole pasta.
So why would you use the pasta water, Father?
So it helps in the process of wilting down this spinach, but again, it has some of that salt. It has some of that starch which thickens the sauce, because this particular pasta dish really, doesn't have very much of a sauce in the sense that, really what makes it is the flavoring of the sausage, the kind of oils that come from the sausage, and some of this pasta water, and then we're going to add some cheese at the very end of all of this process. In addition, so as I was browning it originally, I had it on a medium-high heat. You want it to have that dark brown color. And during that particular process, I added a little bit of garlic right at the end, and I added some of that crushed red pepper as well. So all of that is all in there. It's just the flavor is just kind of intensifying. And one little tip too is when you put the sausage into the pan, it looks like there's going to be too much. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, what did I do? I added way too much. But I had forgotten that it really does shrink down. A lot of that moisture kind of evaporates, and you're just left with that intensified flavor of the sausage.
Now, Father, did you try one of your salami bites? I'm not sure if you tried one. You should
Oh,
try
I've had these so many times.
No, I think you should try one.
I've had these so many
Since
times.
you're the cook, you need to try one. What do you think, Father? Did it come out like you thought? I can hear the crunch as you're crunching, and
it's all good.
It really is a nice bite.
I love that little bit of basil on top.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very, very nice.
So, what I think I'm going to do, we have about 6 minutes left. I'm going to begin to add some of the spinach. So, again, it's going to seem like this is way too much. And you're going to say to yourself, my gosh, the whole thing is just going to be spinach. But I promise, this is going to melt down to almost nothing. Okay.
It's funny how spinach does that, or any kind of green leaf. It just melts down to nothing.
Definitely. So. We want to get all that sausage oil. We want to get the flavor in there as well. We're just going to begin this process. We still have plenty of time. There's no rush. And if you find that this really wilts down to too little, just add a little more. It's okay. Like I said, if you don't have spinach in the house, whatever you have is just fine. If you happen to have the broccoli rabe, that's fine too. If you wanted to do peas, even frozen peas are just fine. There's nothing wrong with using the frozen peas. And that can be very easy just to keep on hand in your freezer, just ready to roll.
And the frozen peas would be probably put at the very end.
Very end, that's exactly right.
Yeah, that's cool. So my cousin, Liz Aroof, just said, gee, she's so excited that you've learned so much in 4 years. Now, I would like to think you learned spiritual stuff from me, but...
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
It's both and. It's both
but
and.
obviously, cooking stuff you've learned as well.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Both and. So, I added just a little bit of that pasta water. And there's really a dual purpose that goes along with this. So, again, if I can have maybe Father Zinno just zoom in just a little bit on this pan. I'm going to kind of make a little room here. You see in the bottom where it has all of this little kind of burned bits and things like that, all of that flavor at the bottom. When you put some of that pasta water in there, all of a sudden it allows you to scoop up all that. And that's where all the flavor is in. So you're really just intensifying it. You're getting on all of the spinach that flavor as well.
It's amazing how that spinach is wilted down to nothing.
It's wilted down. So you know what? I'm going to add just a little bit more. This whole process is really a trial and error. There's nothing that says, oh, you have to add exactly half a bag or a whole bag. You just add whatever works best for you. So let's give this a try here. Add just a touch more of this pasta water. And I just add a little bit over, spread it around, just like so.
Have you added any pasta water yet, or was that your first spoon?
That was the second.
The
Yep.
second spoonful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very
Yep.
good. Yeah,
Just a little bit, just a touch, just to get that process of wilting going here.
Because the water really adds the sauciness to it, huh?
It does, yes, for sure.
So we just have just a few more minutes for the pasta.
We
The
do.
water is like boiling
Boiling
crazily over here.
You know what? I'm going to just do a little test of one of them just to see how it's doing. Thank you. See if you can find just one of these little guys here. And even still, you can already tell, interestingly, just the way the Oriquetti is sitting, it's kind of holding the pasta water. And that's really what you want it to do. You want it to hold a little sauce. So, it's getting very close.
So, Father, how al dente do you like your pasta?
Well, so you want to do it a little al dente, especially in this particular dish because it's going to keep cooking just a little bit when you add it all to this dish. Now, I can enlist perhaps the help of Father Zinno to get some of the Parmigiano Reggiano from the fridge.
Oh, I will do that. Give me 1 second
Thank
here. Very good.
Perfect.
That's fine there. And
Perfect.
then I will get the Parmigiano Reggiano.
Usually
the
this
fridge.
is my job, but
Yes,
just
well,
for a
true,
change,
but-
I get to switch it up just a little
Oh, no,
bit.
but now actually we're changing things and you'll be cooking for the rest of your life here. But anyways.
Thank you very much. Okay.
All right. And you got the Parmigiano Reggiano. I just brought it from the refrigerator. And make sure it's Parmigiano with a G, not an S, because the other S stuff is fake.
Exactly.
The Parmigiano Reggiano is the good stuff. That's what you want. It costs a little more, but you'll die happy. What do you think, Father?
Hatsukatsu, that's for sure. Okay.
Close, close.
Ready to go.
Good,
Okay.
Great.
So, we have here, take that off the heat. What we're going to do, ready to
there you
rock.
have it.
Perfect timing. So, we're going to bring all the Oriquetti over into the other dish. Now, you'll try to drain off some of this. You don't want a ton of water, but just because of the shape naturally, it's going to carry some of that pasta water over. And you want some of that. You want some of that Oriquetti to carry some of that pasta water over. Okay. You can tell just how different that pasta water is now. You know, it's released all its starch. It's changed quite a bit. Okay. So, let's do a little mixing here. Let's see what we get here.
Now, you add any more pasta water? It just depends on how you look at it. Huh,
Yeah, it
Father?
just kind of depends. You have to just
you want a
take it.
saucy sauce
That's
with
it.
the cheese and the pasta water, huh?
Exactly, exactly. So you just have to see how much was brought over with that whole process.
So why is Father stirring? I'm going back for another one of those anti-pasta
That's
bites because
right.
they were so good.
This will be an opportunity for me to begin doing some of the Parmigiano Reggiano on top.
So you do it right over the dish.
Right over it. You've taken the heat off. You turn the heat off at this point
Yep.
because you don't want anything to burn.
No heat is on. Good.
Okay? And what you want
Now,
to
how do you know you have enough, Father?
Well, just try on there. Basically, so I'm going to add a little bit of the formaggio here, and I'm going to do some stirring. And if it looks like we're making some progress, then I'll call it quits. But if it still looks like it needs a little something more, then I'll just add more cheese.
Now, would you add more water too in case you need the pasta water to
If
make
I
it more
do.
saucy?
Mm-hmm. If I do,
So
yeah.
let's take a look.
So I can already tell that's not going to be enough at all. Not at all.
Not enough of the cheese?
Not enough for the cheese, exactly. But you can just tell how quickly these things kind of all melts down very, very quickly.
Oh, it looks it smells great. I wish we had smell-o-vision. Sue Campagna, our faithful parishioner, says there's never enough Parmigiano cheese.
Never enough. Never enough.
Thank you, Sue. I agree with you totally.
You add a
And
little
your
more
mom
after.
and dad would say the same thing. Her dad was our trustee, and Sue's mom was our faithful cook here for so many years, making food for the priest here in the rectory and inviting us over. So thanks, Sue. Yep, I think he looks good making food for the rest of his life here at Mount Carmel. This is what's going to be for so many days here.
Okay. Here we are. All right. I'm going to do just a little taste here, just to see what that's like. I'll try and grab a little of everything here.
So what do you think, Father?
pretty
Right
tasty.
taste, right moisture, everything? Cool. Now, sometimes, you know, everything is, every day when you make stuff like this, you need a little more pasta water, maybe a little olive
Exactly.
oil, and more cheese.
If you want more heat, you add a little more pepper. That's
Yeah.
always one of the great joys of cooking in general. You don't have to be all that specific. When it comes to baking, you have to be very specific. And there are certain things that really, it only comes with practice. You don't know if there's too much moisture in the air, you have to add more flour and everything. I've never been a good baker, but I have found that there's a lot of room for error when it comes to cooking, and I like that. I like that ability to change things around a little bit. It's very forgiving. If you need to add a little more something, just add a little more salt, add a little more pepper, a little more cheese. whatever works best for you. But
But
it's
your
really
mom's a great baker.
very much so, yeah.
She's
So
watching tonight, and Mimi, we keep bringing all your baking stuff here. We love it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is the kind of end result, and you can put it into a nice little dish such as this. So we're gonna just move this over just a little bit here, make a little room, just so you can kind of see.
It's always good to have a good dish to present your pasta. And so we have a few good dishes like this, and presentation is everything.
So everything right in there. You want to get all the juices. And
Now, I assume you put a little more Parmigiano Reggiano sprinkled on the top.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So
But you know,
that looks lovely.
you have all that you need here for a very quick and a very easy dinner together with your family. Now, here's the big question though, is what about dessert? You've gone through all this work, you still have a sweet tooth, you want to have just a little something in there. I'm going to check just to be sure all of our little salami bites that we put in there are still just fine. So that oven, by the way, was at 350 degrees. And again, there's really no timer that you can put on it because depending on the salami, depending on the size of it, you just have to keep an eye on it, basically. And eventually, the edges will crisp up and you'll be good to go for your appetizer. But for the dessert, now what to do? What are we to do with the dessert? Well, I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to leave you there just for 1 second.
He's going to the refrigerator. He's opening something up. Who knows what to expect? We shall see what he brings to us.
A couple of cannolis. Hey, if you've already done all this work, you've had a hard day's work, why go through the process of trying to make a dessert? Leave it to the experts. Just get a couple of cannolis and call it a day. I'll never forget a wonderful quote that was given by Marco Pierre White, who was the teacher of Gordon Ramsay. He said, cooking should be a lot of fun. If it isn't, get a takeaway package. It's something that should be fun and easy for you and your family. So we have here our little spread of different dishes here. You've got your Oriquetti pasta with the sausage and your spinach. We have here our little Italian antipasto bites. It's something that can be done very, very easy, very, very simply for you and your family. When you've had a busy day, but you still want to have something good, these are some little easy recipes for you to try.
And now we'll switch off the cameras for a moment to conclude. Well, what an evening. What a surprise. Father Steve doing my food. And he's going to be doing it for the rest of his life here at Mount Carmel because he's a wonderful cook. Thank you, Father Steve. The recipes look wonderful. We had a great evening tonight. It was a surprise to see you here. And we're so happy that you're our assistant pastor. So God bless you all. And thank you for joining us this evening. We had a great evening and we look forward to so many other cooking events this summer with our feast and with our parish and everything else. So God bless you all, and I hope you enjoyed our cooking this evening.